Well, it just felt so beautiful to come together tonight, like the final day of preparations before the retreat. And so Susanna was saying, oh, yeah, it feels so good. I don't know what it is, but it feels so good to come together. And so I mentioned that to David. It feels like a gathering tonight. Do you think you might? And he's like, yes, definitely. So, yeah, it feels beautiful. I've just been hearing about I can just share this morning on the way to go out to the bank. I stopped by Yiska for 2 minutes and gave her a hug, and she's like, oh my God, and just started to cry. It feels so beautiful. What a beautiful team we have. Everyone's hearts are just so in it, and it's been such a full week for everyone. But so there's a lot of healing coming up, but it's so beautiful. Everyone's just in this full yes and giving everything to it, and so connected. And so that was just part of the miracle that started my day. It was very, very beautiful. Yeah. So, and then I got in the car and Greg reached out for my hands and said the same thing, basically. Like, oh my God, I'm so grateful. It feels so beautiful with everyone. And yeah, so that's starting off with a testimony for you all. And yeah, on the eve of then just opening, of course, it's all for this moment and it's all for our own hearts and our relationship with God in every moment. But then the backdrop is, preparation for a retreat to invite the new ones to come in, and just be here in what's here, which is you. It's the heart. It's the presence of Spirit and presence of Christ that you're so joined in through this purpose of serving together and preparing together and praying together and healing together. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like we welcome each other, and then we have 23 participants coming in from all different parts of the world. A lot of them, Latvia and Perth, and those are long treks. That's not just a pilgrimage. And many are coming for the first time to any such thing as this. So they're coming, around the world, or halfway around the world, at least some of them for a pilgrimage. So I think you can all remember your times when you came for the first time, and the butterflies, and how excited you were, and didn't know what to expect, and hoping that your heart would fly wide open, like a song, just feeling like you're carried in the wind, like a song. While you were talking, I had that beginning of that Carpenter's song coming to mind too, singing in my mind. Such a feeling's coming over me. There is wonder in most everything I see. Not a cloud in the sky, got the sun in my eye, and I won't be surprised if it's a dream. And that's just the start of the song. The song is called On Top of the World. And, and even for those coming with the butterflies, with some trepidation, for some it's a very long trip. If you're coming from Perth or Lithuania, that's who knows. I got a message from a friend of mine who's coming, Wendy, today, saying, "Oh, flights have been canceled, and going to try to take this. I'm going to miss this and this, but I really would like the cell phone number of the person who's going to pick me up, just like a little touchstone, So if I make it to Salt Lake City Airport, then I need that cell phone, and but it's a big step. And I think that's because the prayer in their heart is the prayer in all of our hearts is for healing. Everyone's hoping, praying for joy, for happiness, for healing, to be swept away by the Spirit, and nothing left. Nothing left but the joy. It takes and it does, let's just be honest, it takes a lot of devotion to reach joy. It's like, in some sense, it's like in this world, it would be like climbing Mount Everest. Not everyone makes it to the peak, seemingly, because it's so high. It's just so high. It seems even more treacherous and more difficult the higher you go. It's steeper, it's colder, it's windier, it's more snowy, and so forth. And that's kind of a metaphor for the spiritual journey. When you really go for it, then you think you've left things behind, you think things have fallen away, and then you make another turn and you go, oh my God, oh my God. I thought I was here, and where am I? It can, that's the ego's plan, is disillusionment. It's being discouraged. It's being down. It's being depressed. It's feeling disconnected. That's its plan. That's its main plan. That's its whole plan. And so, and you're on a journey of destiny to joy. That's inescapable joy. That's inevitable joy, and it's surely there. In fact, it's the only thing that's really real. So everything else, just seems to fall and fall and fall and fall. And then I had somebody wrote to me on Instagram maybe 5 or 6 days ago. Or it was maybe even more recent than that, because I sent that a link to this movie out. What was it called? Love Kennedy, yeah. And this is a friend on Instagram who watched it, and she said, well, I couldn't help but identify with the main character because I've had all kinds of ringtones, and she went on to say all the strange, weird, crazy things that have happened to her, and all the intensities and all the mystical experiences that were sprinkled in. And then her question to me was, I just need some perspective. And then she ended it with, am I dying? And yet I said, well, this is when we seem to let go of everything, we go through these experiences. For some, it's more extreme, and often it's very strange. There's no precedent for it. There's things happen and you go, what the hell? It's like you have no context whatsoever for many of the things that will happen. And then I told her, I said, oh yeah, I've gone through a lot of these things in my own way myself. And yet when I would pray to Jesus and say, what is the point here, or what is the lesson? It was always judge not. It was like, and this too, don't judge this either. Don't judge this as extreme. Don't judge this as weird. Don't judge it as difficult. The goal is always the same, judge not. And he tells us in the Manual for Teachers, it's not really that you shouldn't judge, it's that you cannot judge. You're trying to do something that you weren't created with. You're trying to do something that's impossible. And in the end, it was a workbook lesson that was very recent. It was a couple days ago. Let all things be exactly as they are. There it is. That's, again, restated judge not. It's just another version of just, he says at one point, without judgment, all things are equally acceptable. Well, there it is again. All things work together for good. In the Bible, it says all things work together for good for those who love the Lord. Certainly, he knows that you're not going to see all things work together for good until you know the Lord. Then you'll see that everything was always working perfectly. Nothing was ever against me. Everything was for my own best interest. Everything was working together for my good. I just judged against whatever it seemed to be, and then made something of nothing. And Shakespeare said, no, the whole world is much ado about nothing. he was giving us another clue that we can't really judge anything. And then Jesus says you can't judge your advances from your retreats. Well, if I can't judge my advances from my retreats, maybe I don't know what anything is for. And he does say, in no situation do you perceive your own best interest. He doesn't say in some situations, he doesn't say in most situations. He says in no situation do you perceive your own best interest. So that's clearly all pointing to a let go in the mind, where we just surrender and let go to a place of humbleness, to a place of not knowing. And then he says, when you do this, then who you are, what you are, will tell you of itself. It's just given. It's just given. When there's no attempt to put something before it, then it's just like a ray of sunshine. It's like it always has been there. It's just there. So I think it's kind of exciting because we have these 23 participants coming. Hope they all make it. We're always hoping that they make it for orientation, but we've done a lot of retreats here and mystery schools, and not everyone. Sometimes they don't make it. People come in and they go through orientation and everything, and then everyone's sitting down. Sometimes they make it for supper. I've seen some show up like 5 minutes before the evening session. I'm here. Everyone's like, yay! Everyone, you made it. So it is kind of a welcoming spirit, just welcoming, because that's what we all want in our heart. We want to feel welcomed. We want to feel welcomed home. We want to feel just purely welcome, with no disconnect, no hesitation, no doubt, no gap, just pure love and pure welcoming. And of all the parables Jesus told, I think the one that he told the most was probably the prodigal son parable. And that's the parable where the son who's gone off and feels like he's blown it and lost his way is welcomed back with a celebration. Even it's not like a welcomed with a hesitation. It's welcomed fully back with a celebration, with a party. And that's how you really can get that feeling that you really never left. If there's a full welcome, then who's to say you really left? Why dwell on nothingness? Just dive into the celebration, come into the joy, the celebration. So yeah, it feels beautiful that we're here, and that's the feeling. Everyone's very loving, welcoming, and tomorrow they start coming. So, and it's always a wacky world, but these are wacky times. Just for example, most probably this weekend, when we're just kicking off our retreat, the United States government will shut down. And if the government shuts down, then the federal employees don't get paid, and then people go, well, is that military? Yeah, there's a lot of 1.9 or more million people won't get paychecks. But who else won't get paid? Who else won't get paid? Air traffic controllers won't get paid. Oh, well, it's one thing to come all the way from Lithuania or from Perth to fly into a country who doesn't pay their bills, and the air traffic controllers don't get paid, and some of them may keep doing their job, but chances are a lot of them are like feeling right here, with the screenwriters and the actors and actresses. There's United Auto Workers are on strike, and if you don't get paid, you still can show up for work, but you may not. And if significant air traffic controllers don't show up for work, well, I don't care if you have the best computer system in the world. If there's no air traffic controllers, humans up there giving the runway, you can land and you can take off. It's going to disrupt air travel. It's going to be expensive. And yeah, they're just arguing so much right now that there's a very high probability that they won't agree by Saturday. What is this, Thursday night? And they have to all agree and get a bill passed and get it to the president's office where he can sign it on his table by Saturday, or all of the disruption begins. It could go on for days, weeks, months, the way things are with this government, years. It could do anything. And that's why I just wrote to a friend, I just told her, I said, well, that's why we just have to be very patient right now. We have to be very, very, very patient. And also to think of our guests that are coming. That's a big trip. They're coming here and they're all supposed to be here by Friday mid-afternoon. And then on Saturday, if the bills aren't paid, then the government gets shut down. And that's an adventure. It's an adventure for anybody to travel. Some of you traveled. You traveled from Mexico, I guess Mexico City. You know, it's one thing to get here and, yeah, good, I got a flex ticket, everything. Yeah, well, you flew into a country that is not paying their bills. So just so you know, it's, you start to realize that that's why we come back to the present moment. We have to come back to the present moment. We have to come back to the faith, come back to the trust that everything's here for us in this moment. I it was a few days ago, I read an article on my phone where they said that there's been Ukraine and Russia, and Ukraine was making advances, taking back territories and everything. So Russia decided, they would send down 15,000 extra troops. But I believe the way it went was there are people that are kind of a little bit resistant to their own side, so to speak, with Russia. So there were a bunch of these people who were supposed to be paid, and they didn't get their paychecks, much like the air traffic controllers. They didn't get their paychecks, and they said, okay, so some people from Ukraine said, we'll pay you. You just tell us where all of our opponents are, and we'll pay you what you should have been paid by your military commanders. And so they said, sure. They took the money. He told them, here's where they are, and boom, they just wiped out a lot of the Russian soldiers because they were disgruntled because they weren't being paid, and so they were offered to be paid by the Ukrainians handsomely, and they gave over the information. And so, but that's kind of why you could say that's another example why you really have to be focused on your goal. You have to have a focus and a devotion to your goal to achieve the goal of peace of mind. If you have other goals, it's hard to achieve or to experience the peace of mind because the other goals they become obstacles. They get in the way. They become distractions. They just bring about delay to the inevitable. But, as Jesus tells us, delay is unknown in heaven, but tragic in time. Because the inevitable is still the inevitable, but you can either choose to be aware of it or choose to delay being aware of it. And that's what Jesus calls tragedy. Tragic, it's really, this need not be. So that's why we come with devotion, we come with commitment to the goal, we come with our desire to know the truth, to know our Creator, to know our true self. And we put that as a priority. And then as we really start to see the value of that, putting it as our priority, then we really are not so much subject to the temptation to push it away, push the goal away. We really want to keep the goal out front because we see the value of it. Just because we see the value of it, we say, oh, well, call it a devotion if you want. yeah, it's for me. I'm going for it. Yeah, I see the value of the goal. And it's a strange goal because it's not a future goal. It's a present goal. That's a mind bender. It's from it goes against all of our conditioning. We're just used to future goals, future goals, future goals. And even that movie, Love Kennedy, she had her goals even as a little girl, and she basically got to do everything she wanted to do. And then when she was asked, when she was laying there getting ready to leave, she was asked, "Did you choose this?" And you heard the word come out of her mouth, "Yes, yeah, yes, I chose this." And that's really important that we acknowledge that I am responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience, and I decide upon the goal I would achieve. And everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for and receive as I've asked. No victims, no abuse, no neglect, no mistreatment. All the things that this world seems to be about is nada, nada, nada. It's neti, neti. It's just a trick to try to keep us from knowing who we are. So, yeah, I feel like it's fun to be part of. Like we all just showed up. This monastery and all of us are like a quantum experience. And when we step back and smile and see the whole, then we're right in the joy, right into the middle of it. And of course we want to stay there. We don't want to leave the joy point, the point of right now. We want to stay right in the now. And we just need to stay open-minded. Uh, the joy of the miracle is that's all the synchronicities, all the things that seem to line up, and you just notice them and you notice them and you keep noticing them and rejoicing in them. And yeah, it's a great life. Just noticing synchronicities and feeling connected, feeling lined up. So yeah, I'm glad to be part of your meeting.
Yeah, we had a conversation earlier in the week, and just, with the thought of preparing for people coming, I was joining with Susanna, and she said, some thought of anticipation and just really wanting everything to go right. So what you've just shared is this huge context for how, it's what is going right. And that's what we've seen over and over and over again with these retreats. Like, everyone brings the curriculum for healing, and everything that happens is the curriculum for forgiveness. Well, forgiveness is really the curriculum, but whatever happens, we don't have control over the script playing out and exactly what's going to happen. But just knowing that everyone's coming for healing, and that is the goal and the purpose, and everything else is in support of that. It just realigns to, wow, how can you feel? You can let go of responsibility, or pressure, or especially if there's a big area like the kitchen. It's an area that often just about every retreat is like the cooker, the cooker in the kitchen for the overseer and whoever's in there. So it's just, beautiful to have this huge context for, really staying with the priority, and trusting that you can't judge. You can't judge what's going right from going wrong. So.
Yeah, we were had a schedule and talked about having a Saturday night movie and then another Saturday night movie, 2 Saturdays in the retreat. And then I noticed today that I guess Andy, Pete, there was some testing of my computer to kind of broadcast the movie and show the movie here and to our Tribe of Christ. And I thought, wow, my Tribo de Cristo, But then there were, Spanish, and what about subtitles and translations and everything? And so I said, well, I'll just do a spontaneous call. So I just put everybody in a Facebook Messenger group, called them all up, and one by one they doop, 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 appeared. And they were curious. They said, do you know what the movie is? I said, no, I don't. I have no idea what the movie is. And I gave the context. I said, we have people coming from all over the world. They aren't even here yet. They won't be here till Friday. And then they'll just settle in and maybe have an orientation and a welcoming session. And then the next morning, there'll probably be maybe expression session. But we don't know what the movie will be because we don't know what they're going to express. We don't know what issues they'll express. We don't know what it is that will be called for. So it's not pre-planned. I said after that maybe Kirsten and I will meet and just talk and pray and see. I said maybe at the earliest in the early afternoon we might have something start to come in. And then they all just nodded, they understood. And then I said, and even when we have the movie, then, I will broadcast it here and to others in the tribe of Christ. But then at the end of the movie, that will be the end of the transmission. And then there'll be maybe a little 15-minute bathroom break. And then I'll just come over and we'll carry on here with Q&A to dive deeper. Because the movie is just a backdrop for the healing. And we don't know what the movie, it could be a new movie, it could be a classic movie that we show, we don't know. It'll have to be just given. But that's really a good kind of example for the whole retreat. It's just given, moment by moment. And it's different than having something where you have to try to aim for certain kind of outcomes or expectations. We're not aiming for outcomes and expectations in form. We're just here welcoming the spirit and welcoming the presence, welcoming coming and staying in the present moment and staying in the flow of that. So that's a lot of fun. We do have a kind of a structure for the 12 days. We have a structure for it, but we have done retreats in the past. I think the first one we did was Mystery Bay, where we had a whiteboard. We just whiteboarded the whole retreat. People would say, what's coming next? Just watch the whiteboard. Once something comes on the whiteboard, you'll know. Do you have a hint? No. Just watch the whiteboard. Just don't obsess about it. Do go about your day and happen to go by the whiteboard. If you see something, then you know something's happening. But yeah, that was too the goal of doing improv. We're doing a lot of improv now, is to just get yourself into that improv mode where you start to see everything as improv. That you're constantly in improv and you don't really have to stick and cling to the plans so strongly. In fact, I think it's in Workbook Lesson 135 where Jesus is telling us how glorious this state of mind is that we exist in, and he says, and you can stay in it as long as you don't activate the past, organize the present, or plan the future. Just three things. Just don't do any of these three things, and you're home. Don't activate the past in the least bit. Don't organize the present in the least bit, and don't plan the future. Healed mind is relieved of the belief that it must plan. So you can see how different that is from the conditioning that we've been raised with. And you can see why it takes a lot of trust and faith to just yield into that state of mind, because it goes against the conditioning. The conditioning was meant to keep us from knowing who we are, and this is answering the call to know who we are, to really know it as an experience. So that's kind of fun too. I always like when I get that reminder. I was also at that monastery, I think I was giving a talk, I don't know what room I was in, here or the main house or something, but I uttered those words, clueless, carefree, and cared for. And I remember Lila, She was the first one in our community to pass away, but her eyes got real big when I said those 3 words. She was like, yeah, that's it. Clueless, carefree, and cared for. And she always reminded, over the years, I'd see her and she'd go, clueless, carefree, cared for. And I'd say, that's right. She just, before she came here, she was a businesswoman. She was in the corporate world. And then she floated down from the corporate world into clueless, carefree, and cared for. And before she passed, her eyes were glowing, and I remember her face. We had some online retreats. She was just like a little girl. Just her face was so lit up. I think there was one online retreat I remember where Jason was saying something to her like, remember some memory from the campground, and she was gone. She didn't even blink. She didn't even answer Jason. She was gone from the past. She was just so far gone. And that's the goal. My grandmother also was diagnosed with dementia, but she was very happy. She was happy in her 60s and her 70s. She was happy in her 80s, and she was really happy in her 90s when the I call it spiritual dementia was really, she was forgetting the world. She couldn't remember who she had breakfast with. She was happy, but she couldn't remember what happened in the morning or a few hours ago. And she was very cared for too, very loved and cared for, and I would remind her of that too. And she'd say, "Oh, Dave, I don't know, my memory's going." I said, "What are you talking about? You remember all these hymns from the Bible. I can't even remember the 23rd Psalm. It's the Psalm of David, and I can't even remember it, but she would go verbatim from the first line all the way through to the last. And she couldn't remember who she had breakfast with. So I would say, "Oh, you remember what you need to remember." And you're letting go of what you don't need to remember, and there's nothing wrong with that. I would tell her, no, you're great. You're great. And she lived to be 99 and outlived all the doctors that told her she ate too much candy and she had a sweet tooth, and just went sailing on towards heaven. That's the goal. That's the mission. Not to accomplish something in this world. Definitely not to accomplish anything. Yeah.
Beautiful. Should we just open it up and see if anyone has if anyone has something bubbling on their heart to share, or their prayer?
Hi, David. Hi, Kirsten.
Hi.
Hi. I just want to say so much thanks for your help along the way, both of you. But I spent a lot of time on my own working construction and working on rentals, and so I have a lot of time to just put the earbuds in and take off for the day. And so it's been the last 5 years maybe with that, playing and stopping and taking notes on drywall or some painter's tape or something. And I have chunks of this stuff in my bedroom now with stuff I don't want to get rid of yet or whatever. But it's been filling my life, and I'm truly grateful. So, yeah, thank you.
I'm glad you're here, Brian. I remember you came to help work on the cabinets and everything, and we did an online broadcast, and you came up, and I got to meet you over the internet first. That was fun.
Yeah, that was so enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for all your help, and and even to be around here and help us. We're kind of going through a migration, and some things we haven't done for a while. I think we did some kind of migration like this back in 2017. So this is another kind of like the birds flying south. We're kind of flying south. But thanks for being here to help us get things ready and help us get to the airport and all the fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to be here, and thankful for the invitation from Yeska to come and join and be part of this part of it, of getting ready and seeing all the preparations and being a team with Greg and Kai and the rest of them in various ways. And so it's been fun to see the building and now it's here and seeing you for the first time live and truly a joy. Thank you. Yeah.
Hello, David and Kirsten. I'm so happy and grateful to be here. I am so excited about this session, totally. It's just like, it's a miracle for me to be here. I remember the first time I just went visit you once at La Casa, and I remember I was so afraid. And yes, like all of the judgment and unworthiness that I felt that time. And when it was getting closer, the time to come here, I was feeling like, oh, what if I feel the same? What if I run away again? But in this time, from the very first moment that I just came here, I just felt that I was at home. And with everybody, I feel, yes, like so confident, like I feel safe and happy, like I have never been. And even though with all of the healing that has been just happening, I just feel so safe in here, like, and yes, I'm just so grateful with all of you, with Jesus, of course, that yes, like he brought me where my heart wants to be, and I'm just so grateful and happy to see what is coming on the retreat. So thank you all, thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. Yeah. It's beautiful. So beautiful. Yeah, it's great. It's just great to be so open. You can feel relaxed and open. Then, yeah, it's a wonderful experience in that way. Yeah, it's good.
Hi, David. Hi, Christian. Siento tanta gratitud.
I feel so much gratitude.
En estos días que he estado en servicio y ayudando,
Days that I've been at service and helping.
he podido ver cómo se está sanando mi mente a través de estar ayudando a mis hermanos y mis hermanas.
I can see how my mind is being healed through helping my brothers and sisters.
Hoy cada vez más puedo ver cómo el ego quiere tener la razón
And I can see how the ego wants to be right.
y cada vez más con amor y con la ayuda de Jesús
And every time more with Jesus' help,
puedo darle amor a ese Ramón que está con miedo,
I can give love to that Ramon that is feeling fear.
hace 3 años que estaba en la Casa de Milagros, bueno, 2 años y medio.
3 years ago that I was at la Casa de Milagros.
Había una instrucción y el ego, y Ramón con miedo y con el ego decía, no, 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 no.
Anytime an instruction or guidance came and that Ramon with fear just answered no, no.
Y ahora puedo ver la bendición
Now I can see the blessing
de abrazar al ego
to embrace the ego
y decirle, tú no sabes,
and tell him you don't know anything.
solo estás aquí para dar amor.
You're here only to give love.
Siento tanto amor de estar aquí.
I feel so much love of being here.
Siento este espacio de bendición
I feel this space of blessing
para entrenar mi mente
to train my mind
y recordar la verdad.
and remember the truth.
Que estamos en casa,
We are at home
que siempre hemos estado.
and we have always been at home.
Gracias, Jesús.
Thank you, Jesus.
Gracias, David.
Thank you, David.
Gracias, Kirsten.
Thank you, Kristen.
Gracias por ayudarme a recordar
Thank you for helping me to remember
que estoy aquí solamente para ser útil
that I am here only to be truly helpful
y para extender el amor de Dios.
and to extend God's love.
Perdón porque me confundí del pasado.
Sorry because I got confused in the past.
Gracias, aquí y ahora,
Thank you, here and now.
en amor eterno.
Love.
Thank you, Ramon.
Thank you. So beautiful. It's like everyone can feel like the prodigal son.
Todos nos podemos sentir como el hijo pródigo.
We have all played out the running away,
Todos hemos tratado de salir corriendo.
and we're all forgiven. We're all so deeply, deeply loved and welcome.
Todos somos
Some of us have run away many times. To be convinced that, yeah, we're so deeply loved.
How's our sweet sister Ophelia?
Wow.
Wow. We have healed so much.
Hemos liberado el concepto de la cárcel,
We have liberated the concept about jail
que solo está en nuestra mente.
because it's only in our mind.
Hemos liberado tantos cuerpos
Like we have been liberating so many bodies,
y nos hemos liberado juntos.
and we have been released together.
Ella cada vez ama más a todos los que están allá adentro detenidos con ella.
She loves every time more the ones that are on detention with her,
Y también ama a los que los cuidan.
and she also loves the one who are like the guards.
Dice, siento tanto amor por la que nos cuida,
She said, like, I feel so much love about the guard that is like just observing us.
que aunque está con su cara de enojada,
Even when she has this anger face,
siento un amor incondicional por ella.
I feel an unconditional love towards her.
Hemos sanado tanto ahorita en estos meses.
We have been healing a lot in these last months,
Que por eso hoy puedo sentir como todo está amorosamente guiado.
and that's why now I feel that everything is being with lovingly guided.
Todo es una lección que Dios quiere que yo aprenda.
Everything is a lesson God wants me to learn.
Yeah, you definitely are teaching and healing through relationships.
Sí, tú definitivamente estás aprendiendo y sanando a través de las relaciones.
Because I think you met Ophelia at La Casa de Milagros,
Porque creo que tú conociste a Ofelia en la Casa de Milagros.
and then her sister Omicia met JJ from Spain there,
Y luego la hermana de Ofelia conoció a JJ de España.
Angie met Wesley, and on and on and on.
Angie conoció a Wesley y todos, uno y otro y otro.
And so even though back then we had a program called Co-Living,
Y en ese entonces teníamos un programa llamado Co-Living.
the nickname for La Casa became Co-Loving.
Y luego el apodo para la casa se convirtió Co-Loving.
And Jesus really knows how to use relationships for the healing.
Y Jesús realmente sabe cómo usar las relaciones para la sanación.
Yeah. And then, yeah, these are very deep connections that are beautiful, like a incubator for healing the mind.
Y estas conexiones son muy hermosas como una incubadora para sanar la mente.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the Titanic song, our hearts go on and on. We have to ask, how's Ophelia?
Y como la canción de Titanic, nuestro corazón sigue y sigue y teníamos que preguntar, ¿cómo está Ofelia?
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you.
Hermoso.
That's beautiful.
Gracias.
I really don't know what I'm going to say right now, but yeah, I just really don't know how I'm doing. Like, yeah, it's just like you said, like this journey is so strange, and the further you go on, the more you realize just how much you don't know. And it's, yeah, just the prayer in my heart is just trust, because it's like the more, you know, seeming autonomy I give away, like, you know, as I go deeper in this community, the more the ego is like freaking out and trying to poke holes, like, well, yeah, you have to figure out a reason not to trust, because what if it turns out that you fully give your mind over and you trust, and then it turns out that, yeah, none of it was real, and yeah. So it's just like, I don't know, it's just been such a flip between like really feeling with spirit and so connected, and yeah, obviously this is all real and it's so beautiful and I'm so grateful to be here and that this is, you know, my life right now. And then it flips to the ego, and it's just like, it gets so, it's like I turn blind, like I just can't see anymore, like, so yeah, I just really want to just keep trusting my brothers here and trusting you guys and just trusting this whole process, because like I just I've been shown time and time again, I just don't know, like the more I follow the guidance here and it makes me happy, it's like, wow, okay, yeah. You know, I was wrong, and yeah, so it's like I just want to keep following it, but it's just like, yeah, it's just scary at times, and it's just like, yeah. But it's also been so beautiful. Like I really do feel like I'm experiencing a miracle of the mind. Like I'm just feeling a lot lighter and like more spacious in my mind, and the peace and love, and yeah, it's just so intense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone can relate to that too, because everyone's felt that and the intensity of it. And yeah, I mean, I can see with everything I grew up with and was raised with, and not only raised with it and valued it, but was pointing my whole future towards autonomy.
Mm.
And then, you know, hanging in there with reading the Course and praying and asking internally, you know, I just need to be shown this is so different. This is so opposite to everything. You know, it can seem at times very disorienting. But I remember in the Course, Jesus says that your autonomy is the autonomy of creation. And he's talking about heaven. He's talking about spirit. He's equating the autonomy word with spiritual creation, with identity in God. And I thought, wow, it's interesting that he would do that, because it's not the definition that I had of it. And then there's one point where he says, because it's like, really, what is autonomy? If you really go deeper into that, what does it even mean? He says, what do you want? Freedom of the body or freedom of the mind? For both you cannot have. I remember the first time I read that sentence, I was like, really? Really? You sure I can't have both? Is that a real question? You know, it's just a pointed question. You know, what do you want? Freedom of the body, freedom of the mind? For both you cannot have. And I thought, yeah, there we go. Now that's getting to the heart of the autonomy question. It's like in the field of philosophy, you know, they have all these huge issues that have been issues in philosophy for many, many centuries, and one of the issues, they say, perennial issues in philosophy is free will versus determinism. That's like a major issue in philosophy that just goes on and on through textbook and philosopher. And And again, that's another one that's going right at the autonomy thing, because free will is associated with autonomy, and determinism is associated with slavery. And the value for the freedom, the free will, is important. And or even when we put it to choice, I hear so many people. I've heard people for many, many years that say, "Well, God did give us free will," and yeah, God gave us free will in creation, in heaven. That's where our free will is. But Jesus is saying, while you believe in time, the will is not free. The will is enslaved in ideas and beliefs that God doesn't create and doesn't even know about. So it is like a flip, because I do remember somebody posted on Facebook a few days ago. They posted that part where Jesus said, basically that the apostles didn't understand and misinterpreted his teachings. He says, because of their upside down thinking and guilt. So, wow, those are the apostles? The apostles of Jesus had upside down thinking and guilt? Okay. That's just, again, another way of saying that, yeah, everything that we've taught ourselves and learned and believed in is not true. It's upside down. And yet, when you pray for healing and you see this upside down thought system start to get turned, it's intense. The most intense part is the turn. It's like, no problem when it's when it's right side up, but if it's upside down and your whole world is going like this, and you're even at this point, it's dicey. It's very intense. You feel insane because there's no partial sanity, and you haven't made the turn. You're in the process of the turn, and it feels super, super intense, as if wow, it just could all crash down in a minute. It just feels like it could all crash. And yeah, I've had some communications the last couple of days with Luana who was here, and she just contacted me, and then she was just talking to me, and she said she had a dream, and in the dream, she said there was a voice in the dream, and the voice told her in the dream, "Tell David you're back." The voice said in the dream. And so she woke up in the morning, and she remembered that, and then she looked at her phone, and I had sent her a message, so she was actually shocked to see. I was sending her the link to this movie, this Love Kennedy, which I sent to many people. But she saw it was a message from me, and she had heard, "Tell David you're back," and then it was like a shock to see them. And then she said, "Could we have a call?" So we had a call, and then another message came, just talking about what you're talking about, the intensity, the suffering, the really darkness, very deep, bleak darkness, feeling and so forth. But she said, and then I watched the movie, and I just felt kind of like lifted up or lifted out of it, through the movie, that the link in the movie was kind of almost like the reply, first being told something, "Tell David you're back," and then the means. Jesus always, he calls us, and then, and here's the means too. And I've got your back. And I'm got here with whatever you need. I've got it as a practical answer to a very deep question, And sometimes the question is, can I go on? And then, then we had another communication, and she said, after I left the monastery, then everything I had journaled about, everything I still wanted from the world, it came to me so quickly in 3 months, just pop, 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 very quickly. But that even helped her start to see, okay, I really want Jesus. That's what I really want, because it is, like Kirsten was saying, we've gone away, we've turned away many times. And she said, I think the ego was telling me, just forget everything that happened. Don't try to figure any of that out. It was trying to flip the turn back upside down. It's like the ego saying, why don't you stabilize with my upside down thinking? And it sounds funny, but that's exactly what its plan is. It wants us to stabilize in upside down. And it doesn't want us to turn to right side up, because that would be joy. And that's the end of the ego. So it's like, for it's like, its autonomy, its very existence in its own demented little definition is everything. And then healing from that perspective would be death. Love would be death. Love would be the death of the ego. It didn't really live, but in its terms, it would be oblivion. Love would be oblivion. So, that's the kind of thing. We're dealing with that fundamental of an issue. And then I have other friends down in Brazil. Some weeks ago, Paulina and her husband Gabriel, they've talk about following the guidance. He's let go of everything, sold his business, let go of everything. They got married, and now they're starting a spiritual community. Yeah, if you really want to have a lively life, start a spiritual community. Oh my, they're just like, what did we do? What possibly could ever have led us to that? But I would have some calls with them, but at one point they got the guidance to both go to a desert. So they both took off on a trip to a desert. And then when they were at the desert, they were seeing all these signs and symbols all around them. Paulina said, yeah, it was demons, to use her word. That's what the symbols were. And interestingly enough, her husband Gabriel everything was just so heavenly that he just kept getting more enraptured at this desert experience, and more enraptured and more enraptured, and more willing and more open. And as Paulina was just freaking out, more and more, just freaking out, like it's the end of the world, freaking out kind of thing. He was like, he was like, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And she's seen demons. It's angels. It's angels. And they're both, so she's like, and he's in the rapture. And then he's like, okay, Jesus, take me down in my mind. Take me down to the deepest place. Take me down to what I've always been avoiding. Take me down to the bottom of my mind. So Jesus took him down, 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 down. I called him, so I was talking to both of them. They were just sitting on a bed, and he said, he took me down, 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 all the way to the bottom of my mind, and there was a box. And he said, okay, I'm ready. What is the box? He asked Jesus, and she said, the box is the authority problem. There's the autonomy right there. Did you create me, God, or did I create myself? There's the question. To be or not to be? Shakespeare called it. That is the question. Am I your creation, or did I create myself? That's the autonomy. That's the authority problem. Jesus said, there it is. It's the box. But then Jesus was saying, come, let's go in the box. Like, there's only innocence inside there. Only innocence. So, yeah, you could see when Gabriel was describing all this, yeah, I went for the box. He took me to the box. And Paulina was like, because it's really, what perspective do you look upon that box with? Is it a box of death and destruction, or is it a box of innocence and gentleness and joy and light and love? Really that's really what it all comes down to. But it does take trust. There's nothing in the world that you can use as like props for going down into your mind to that. And then there's a part in the Course, it's called the last unanswered question, where Jesus says, here's 3 questions, and the difference between those 3 and the 4th question, the last unanswered question, is the first 3 you can change your mind. But with the last unanswered question, you can't change your mind with it. You have to make a definitive yes. And the last unanswered question is, do I want to see what I denied because it is the truth? That's the last unanswered question. And there's no going back from that. That's not you can't say, yes, I want to see it, but I denied, show it to me, and then go, stop, no, back, reverse. It's not a multiple choice, or it's not something you can flip on. And because that's, again, the upside down thinking having to come right side up, into the glory. And so, it just seems like that's what these encounters, these situations that come up, on a daily basis are really, on the surface they seem different, but really it's really the same thing underneath. And it's really a call to trust and faith. And the ego's like, don't do it, you're going to be gullible, you're going to be in a terrible position, you're not, what's your plan B? It's just, it's kind of a panic, it's a frantic thing. I remember there was a point in my life where I had gone my whole life thinking I'd like to having plan Bs. I'd like to plan B, C, D, E, F to be safe. And yet he would boil down to, now what is your plan B? What are you hiding? What are you afraid of? Why are you giving yourself imaginary out from this? So it's in the end, I think it's why we choose to go for it, why we take our steps of faith. Every step is a step of faith. And it's all aimed at a recognition in the end of who we are. It's a beautiful aim for faith to carry us there. So thank you for just grabbing the mic and saying, I don't even know what I have to talk about, but I have something to say. Yeah, that's the willingness right there that helps us relax, just to be able to speak it up.
Yeah, it's funny because when I'd be having these like ego attacks, the ego would be like, you have to get out of here, and then I would say, okay, where do I go? And it was just silence. Like it was like the ego couldn't even give me a solution of a better place to go. I was like, okay. Like even in the darkest moments, I still knew this is where I'm meant to be. I feel safe and like deep in my core, So I'll just keep having faith and Thank you.
Yeah, I did a little pamphlet called "Purpose is the Only Choice." Really, every moment we're just deciding our purpose, even though it's covered over by all these scenarios and people and situations and images. It's like we're just really coming down to what's my purpose? Oh yeah, what's my purpose? And Jesus said in the Bible, no man can serve 2 masters. And then the American poet songwriter Bob Dylan had a song which was that you're going to have to serve somebody. You're going to have to serve. It may be the devil or it may be the Lord. You're going to have to serve somebody. It was an interesting, the poet Bob Dylan was coming at the same thing. It's like we can't serve 2 masters. Your heart can't be in 2 different places. in two different goals or two different purposes. Somehow there's a relaxation when we come to admit to ourselves what we really want, honestly. And then we have the faith to believe we can experience it, and the faith to be lifted up, and the faith to be taken, shown the truth. Yeah. Thank you for being courageous during that. Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm sure there'll be opportunities during the retreat to extend as well, because those coming as well, it's like it's a development of trust for everyone. And Jesus says it'll come and go and come again and go again. So it's definitely a development of trust, and it's so to just keep expecting miracles. Like that's what I love. I think about this place. One of the things I love about the monastery so much is it's like a little village, and we run into each other at the most perfect time. Like we've had 3 encounters over the washing machine and the laundry. And it's so beautiful. I'm like, Yvonne, I had the thought, I want to connect about whose laundry it is, if I could put an extra load in, and it has to be simple. Yvonne walks down the basement steps and turns and looks at me through the window. It's just like, Luana, she's like, hey. And I come and ask the question and a hug, and she's like, oh, I really needed that. It's not about the laundry. It's just about the call and the moment. So, that's what feels so beautiful about being here. Just keep expecting miracles and expecting, the love to show up, to keep showing up. Whether we're answering the call or we're receiving the help, it's just right there. So
we're ready for our guest to appear.
Yeah, we are. Very beautiful.